Right now, Wednesday, May 6th, 2026, two of the most significant weather systems of this entire spring season are simultaneously active across the continental United States. And they are not operating independently. They are interacting. Their boundaries are colliding. Their energy is compounding. And the result is one of the most complex and dangerous severe weather setups that American forecasters have had to track in the first week of May in recent memory. The first system is a slow-moving cold front stretching from the Great Lakes southward through the Ohio Valley and all the way into the Gulf states, a boundary that has been generating severe weather for days and that is refusing to clear through. Behind this front, a low-pressure center that tracked from southern Michigan down through the St. Lawrence Valley is still influencing the pattern, its remnant energy stitched into the atmospheric fabric over the Midwest and Tennessee Valley. The second system is a reinforcing cold front dropping from the north and northwest, a new wave of cold, dry air descending from Canada that is now approaching from the Central Rockies and High Plains. As this second front pushes southeast, it is driving into the same corridor of warm, humid Gulf air that has been fueling days of severe weather. The two frontal boundaries are converging, and where they meet, right now, today, from northeast Texas through Arkansas, across Memphis, up through western Tennessee and into the Ohio Valley, the atmosphere is being loaded with the kind of instability that produces all three of the most dangerous severe weather hazards. Simultaneously, large hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes. The Storm Prediction Center's Day First Outlook, updated at 1 a.m. CDT this morning, placed a level 2 slight risk, meaning roughly a 15% tornado probability within 25 miles of any given point, across Arkansas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Kentucky. 4 states in the core zone. A broader level 1 marginal risk surrounds it, extending the general severe threat into Missouri, Mississippi, Louisiana, and portions of New England. And tonight, as the system pushes east and northeast, the southern Appalachians and the northeast face their own elevated risk window. This is what two storm systems colliding looks like, and we are tracking it live right now. The setup. What is driving this collision? To understand why today's situation is so dangerous, you need to understand the atmospheric mechanics that have been building this setup for the past week. Because what is happening on May 6th is not a sudden event. It is the culmination of a sustained pattern, one that AccuWeather senior meteorologist Alex Sosnowski described as producing near-daily severe storms across parts of the central United States. The primary driver is the persistent clash between two fundamentally different air masses. From the south, the Gulf of Mexico is pumping warm, humid air northward. Surface dew points across Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Mississippi are running in the mid-60s Fahrenheit, a value that meteorologists recognize as significant moisture loading. When afternoon heating warms the surface layer and temperatures climb into the low to mid-80s, the combination of those dew points and surface temperatures generates what forecasters measure as MLKP, mixed layer convective available potential energy, of between 1,500 and 2,000 joules per kilogram. That is the metric that tells you how explosive and powerful any thunderstorms that manage to form will be. Values in the 500 to 2,000 range are in the significantly severe category. From the north and northwest, cold air from Canada is descending across the Central Rockies and High Plains, crashing into the warm sector. Cold fronts are the detonators of severe weather. They provide the lifting force that triggers storms to form along and ahead of their boundary. And this cold front, according to the SPC discussion from overnight, is interacting with a kinematic environment, meaning the wind shear profile through the depth of the atmosphere massing. That features bulk shear of approximately 60 knots. 60-knot bulk shear is the kind of number that keeps meteorologists on alert, because it means that any thunderstorm that forms has the vertical wind structure to organize into a supercell, the rotating, long-lived storm type that produces the most violent tornadoes. The second complicating factor, the element that creates the collision, is the remnant boundary from the earlier cold front. A low-pressure center moved from southeastern Michigan northeastward along the St. Lawrence Valley overnight. That cold front extended from central Quebec southwestward through southern Illinois. As it progresses eastward, it creates a triple-point interaction, a meteorological zone where the new cold front from the northwest, the old frontal boundary, and the surface dry line from the west are all converging within a relatively small geographic area. Triple-point interactions are among the most prolific tornado-producing environments in the world. The Tornado Alley supercells that forecasters watch most closely are often the ones that form right at triple points. The result? An environment where, as the SPC put it, the kinematic environment should be very supportive of supercells this afternoon and evening. Any storms that do mature should be severe and capable of all hazards. Large to very large hail, 2 inches or larger, is possible early in each storm's convective cycle. Tornadoes are also possible, particularly from central Arkansas into western Tennessee, where the low-level and mid-level flow will be strongest. A strong tornado is possible with a sustained, discrete supercell. Where it is happening right now, the live threat zones. Let's go zone by zone because the geographic extent of today's threat is extraordinary, stretching from Texas all the way to New England in the same day. The core zone, Arkansas, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Kentucky. This is the heart of today's collision, the level 2. Slight risk covers the corridor from northeast Texas through Texarkana, Fort Smith and Little Rock in Arkansas, Memphis and Nashville in Tennessee, Paducah and Louisville in Kentucky, and across into southeastern Oklahoma. The SPC's main threat area is centered over Arkansas, described specifically as the area where the strongest forcing and the richest moisture will combine. The primary hazards in this core zone are tornadoes, with a 10% or greater probability of EF2 or stronger tornadoes in portions of the hatched area, large hail, with a 10% or greater probability of hail 2 inches in diameter or larger, and damaging wind gusts, with the highest wind risk along and behind any line that forms, as storms grow upscale from discrete supercells into a squall line configuration. The timing is critical. The SPC discussion noted that some weak capping may prevail early, particularly if cloudiness persists through the morning. Observable trends in cloud cover as heating begins will determine whether storms fire discretely, as individual supercells with maximum tornado potential, or remain suppressed until late afternoon and evening. If discrete storm mode can be maintained through the afternoon, the tornado threat is highest. If storms immediately grow upscale into a linear mode, damaging winds become the dominant hazard and the tornado risk is lower but still present. For residents of Memphis, Little Rock, Fort Smith, Texarkana, Nashville, Paducah, and all communities between them, this is a day to stay weather aware. Keep alerts active throughout the afternoon and into the evening. Have your shelter plan confirmed. Know the difference between a watch and a warning. And do not make the mistake of assuming that because this is a level 2 rather than a level 4 or 5, that it cannot produce significant events. The EF4 that destroyed Enid, Oklahoma on April 23rd fell within a level 3 risk area. Violent tornadoes do not read the risk maps. The secondary zone, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, southern Appalachians. Surrounding the core zone, a level 1 marginal risk extends into a much broader area. This level 2 threat covers parts of North Texas, including Dallas, as well as eastern Oklahoma and Arkansas, with large hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes all possible with any storms that develop. By Wednesday, today, the level 2 threat shifts south into the Ark-La-Tex region and parts of Mississippi and Alabama. Dallas and the DFW Metroplex, which experienced level 4 severe weather risk during the April 28th event, are in the outer threat zone again today. The primary hazard here is large hail. The storm mode is expected to be more linear in Texas by the time systems reach the eastern part of the state, reducing the tornado threat but maintaining the damaging wind and hail potential. Mississippi, Alabama, and the Tennessee Valley are in a secondary corridor where storms that train, meaning successive, thunderstorm cells moving repeatedly over the same geographic area, create the added risk of flash flooding. The SPC noted a level 1 out of 5 flash flood risk for areas from eastern Tennessee to southern Indiana, where multiple thunderstorms hitting the same area in rapid succession could produce locally excessive rainfall. The Northeast, the second collision zone. Here is the part of today's setup that surprises many people who think of severe weather as purely a southern and central plains concern. A separate level 1 marginal risk is in effect across upstate New York and New England, driven by a different atmospheric dynamic, but part of the same large-scale pattern. The SPC discussion for the Northeast noted that predominantly linear storm mode should keep the tornado risk low there, though a low probability threat still exists, particularly if a pocket of strong buoyancy can develop across upstate New York. The primary hazard for the Northeast corridor is damaging wind gusts, the kind of straight-line winds that bring down trees, snap power lines, and cause the travel disruptions that have become increasingly common in the spring of 2026. Fox Weather confirmed that the heavy rain expanding from the Tennessee Valley into the Ohio Valley and Northeast beginning Wednesday along the northern portion of the massive cold front could cause delays at major airports along the northeastern Interstate 95 corridor. The rain arrives in the Northeast by midweek, and downpours could cause disruptions at Boston Logan, JFK, LaGuardia, Newark, Philadelphia, and Washington Dulles, all in the same 24-hour window. The Rockies wildcard. Snow in May. There's a third dimension to today's story that illustrates the extraordinary range of this system. While severe thunderstorms are firing from Texas to Tennessee and heavy rain is soaking the Northeast, The Central Rockies are simultaneously under a winter storm warning. According to Fox Weather, behind the cold front, cold air will deliver heavy snow across the Central Rockies. The greatest accumulations will be in the mountains of Wyoming and Colorado, where some of the highest peaks and passes could see between 1 and 2 feet of heavy, wet snow. Colorado will see widespread totals of 8 to 12 inches across the northern and central mountains, including popular areas like Breckenridge and Rocky. Mountain National Park. A winter storm warning is in effect for Denver from Tuesday through Wednesday. May snow in the Rockies is not unusual in isolation, but the juxtaposition of a winter storm warning in Colorado and a tornado threat in Arkansas on the same day, driven by the same large-scale pattern, captures something important about the breadth and power of what meteorologists call a multi-hazard event. The same cold air mass that is producing blizzard conditions in the mountains is the one crashing into the Gulf moisture and generating the severe weather outbreak in the central and southern states. The two hazards are not coincidental. They are two faces of the same system. The season in context. What the numbers tell us. Today's collision needs to be understood in the context of what has been happening across the United States throughout the first 5 weeks of the 2026 severe weather season, because the numbers are extraordinary. Travel and Tour World's analysis of the current outbreak sequence identified the statistics that frame the severity of the season. Over 900 severe weather incidents were recorded in just a few days. Nearly 60 tornadoes were reported in a single outbreak sequence. These numbers highlight how volatile the system has become. The lingering front continues to act as a trigger point, allowing storms to redevelop repeatedly. The April 23rd through 29th outbreak alone produced the EF4 Enid tornado, the EF2 Runaway Bay, Texas tornado, the Mineral Wells, Texas confirmed tornado, over 260,000 power outages, and 1 fatality in Grand Rapids, Michigan. The April 13th through 17th sequence produced at least 14 confirmed tornadoes across 4 states and put 50 million people under severe weather threat. The April 14th event generated a level 3 enhanced risk for communities including Chicago, Milwaukee, Des Moines, and Detroit simultaneously. The spring 2026 season forecast from AccuWeather had already predicted that a persistent clash of air masses would trigger near-daily severe storms from Texas to the Midwest. That forecast has proven accurate. The pattern AccuWeather described, warm, humid air from the Gulf colliding with cooler air arriving from the Pacific and southern Canada, along with strong winds high in the atmosphere, is precisely the pattern that has been running on repeat since mid-April and that is producing today's dual system collision. The 2026 AccuWeather severe weather forecast for business leaders noted that this setup is not unusual for spring, but the intensity stands out. The season's severity reflects both the natural variability of spring atmospheric dynamics and the broader context of a warming climate that is loading the atmosphere with more energy and more moisture. Ocean temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico are running above average. That warmer water generates more moisture flux northward. More moisture means more fuel for storms. The physics is straightforward even when the weather is not. What comes next? The week ahead. The two systems colliding today do not resolve cleanly after Wednesday. The SPC's Day 4 through Day 8 outlook, issued at 2:32 a.m. CDT Tuesday, describes the pattern through the rest of the week and into the weekend. Mean upper troughing will persist east of the Rockies through the Day 4 to 8 period. This will largely suppress northward transport of Gulf moisture, except periodically across the southern plains in southeast and Gulf Coast states. Severe potential is expected to be low on Friday, as surface high pressure dominates in the wake of the cold frontal passage moving offshore. That is genuinely welcome news. A brief pause in the severe weather pattern as high pressure builds behind the departing front. But the pause is exactly that. A pause, not an end. By Saturday, Day 5, lee troughing will allow for increasing south-southeasterly low-level flow across the southern plains and lower Mississippi Valley, aiding in moisture return across these areas. This could result in thunderstorm potential across the south-central United States. By Sunday and Monday, Days 6 and 7, another cold front is forecast to move east-southeast across much of the country. Another cold front, another surge of Gulf moisture, another collision. The pattern that AccuWeather identified as the dominant feature of the 2026 spring season, repeated rounds of severe weather driven by the persistent clash of air masses, continues through at least the middle of May by current forecast indications. What you should do. Practical guidance by region for those in the core level 2 zone, Arkansas, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Kentucky. The threat today develops during the afternoon heating hours and extends through the evening and overnight. The overnight window, if storms maintain discrete supercell structure into the dark hours, represents the most dangerous phase. Have your weather alerts set to wake you, know your shelter location, have a battery-powered or hand-crank weather radio in addition to your phone because power outages can occur before warnings are issued. If a tornado warning is issued for your county, shelter immediately. For those in the secondary zone, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee Valley, large hail is the primary threat in many of these areas today. Hail at 2 inches or larger can shatter windshields, destroy crops, dent vehicles, and damage roofs in a matter of minutes. If you see hail beginning to fall, do not move to your vehicle. Get to interior rooms on a lower floor and away from windows. If you are driving, pull under a covered structure or away from trees. Do not stop under highway overpasses. For those in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, heavy rain, damaging wind gusts, and travel disruptions are the primary hazards for you today and tonight. Check flight status if traveling through major northeastern airports. Secure outdoor furniture and remove hanging items that could fall in strong wind gusts. Flash flooding is possible in low-lying areas, particularly in cities with older drainage. Infrastructure. Do not attempt to drive through flooded roadways. Turn around, don't drown. For those in Colorado and the Rocky Mountain region, treat today's winter storm warning with full seriousness despite the May date. Wet, heavy snow in the mountains is extremely dangerous for travel on mountain passes. Check road conditions before traveling any mountain route. Chain requirements may be in effect on multiple passes. The combination of heavy wet snow and strong winds can cause widespread tree damage and extended power outages. The bigger picture. What May 2026 is telling us, stand back from the immediate tracking and look at the pattern of this first week of May 2026. And what you see is a United States meteorological pattern running at maximum intensity across virtually every region simultaneously. Tornadoes and severe thunderstorms from Texas to Tennessee. Heavy rain from the Tennessee Valley to the northeast, blizzard conditions in the Colorado Rockies, wildfire smoke from Arizona spreading across the southwest, drought expanding across the west, and, as we detailed in our recent coverage, a super El Nino forming in the Pacific that will reshape the atmospheric pattern for the second half of 2026. This is not a single weather event. It is a system-wide signal. AccuWeather's analysis framed the current severe weather pattern with language that captures its significance. The current severe weather outbreak is driven by a persistent frontal boundary interacting with warm, moisture-rich air from the Gulf of Mexico. This collision is creating highly unstable atmospheric conditions, fueling repeated rounds of thunderstorms and tornado formation. The jet stream is playing a critical role, steering storm systems from the central U.S. toward the south and east. The pattern is expected to persist through midweek, and potentially well beyond. Weather does not occur in isolation. The same climate dynamics that loaded the March 2026 heat wave with unprecedented energy. The same ocean temperatures, the same atmospheric moisture, the same jet stream configuration, are now producing the conditions for this spring's sustained severe weather pattern. The two phenomena are connected. They are expressions of the same underlying shift in the atmospheric energy budget. Final word. Tracking live all day, too. Massive storm systems are colliding right now over the American heartland. The atmospheric conditions are supporting supercell development. Strong bulk wind shear is in place. Gulf moisture is abundant. And the clash between the retreating warm sector and the advancing cold front is producing exactly the kind of violent thunderstorm environment that has already, in the past 2 weeks of April, generated the first EF4 tornado of 2026 in Enid. The Mineral Wells, Texas, confirmed tornado, 900 plus severe weather incidents, and nearly 60 reported tornadoes. Today adds another chapter to that story. Arkansas is the bullseye. Tennessee and Kentucky are in the core zone. Texas, Mississippi, and Alabama face the secondary threat. The Northeast faces damaging winds and travel chaos. Colorado faces a May blizzard. One system from the north, one system from the south, one collision zone running from northeast Texas to western Tennessee. And right now, in real time, the storm chasers are positioning, the NWS forecast offices are updating their outlooks, and millions of people across the affected region are checking their alerts and thinking about shelter. Stay weather aware, keep your alerts on, know your shelter. Check back for every update as this system evolves throughout the day. This has been your complete live tracking update on 2 massive storm systems colliding across the United States. Wednesday, May 6th, 2026.